Welcome to Just Got Played. This is Jim Jam, and I got Lloyd with me, and we're going to talk about Star Wars Outer Rim. But first, we're going to teach you how to play it.
So this is Star Wars Outer Rim. In Star Wars Outer Rim, you are playing characters from the movies, the books, maybe some of the characters are even in the games, video games and stuff. And so the characters are like Boba Fett and Han Solo, Lando Calrissian, Dr. Aphra. There's a handful of characters in the game. And essentially you are playing either a bounty hunter or a smuggler, and you are competing to get a certain amount of fame in order to win the game. So if you look down here on the board, this is your fame tracker. So you can play for a shorter game, you can play up to 10, or for like the long game, you can play up to 12 fame. And the basic mechanism of Star Wars Outer Rim is kind of a pick up and deliver type system. As you can see, you have a bunch of planets in the Outer Rim, and you are going to be flying from planet to planet, doing jobs, hunting bounties, delivering goods, all while leveling up your character and your ship through these market cards and even through these story cards over here. So the basic game play of a turn is you have 3 phases to your turn. In phase 1, that is called the planning step. There's 3 different actions you can do. There's 3 different base actions you can do. Some other characters get to do other things during different phases based on who they are and what they unlock. But the base actions you can do during the planning step are you can move up to your ship's movement speed, which we'll come back to the ships. You can just gain 2,000 credits, or you can recover all damage. And that counts damage on your ship and damage to your character. That is the planning phase. The next phase you have is the action step. So the action step, again, the base actions are you can deliver cargoes and bounties. So if you move your character from Naboo to Takodana, you can, if you have a bounty that you want to deliver or a cargo, you can just automatically deliver it for the cash, the credits, and the reputation, or the fame. You can do a market action if you're on a planet. So the market consists of these 6 decks. So over here you have just kind of a goods deck, and this is going to have a bunch of random stuff in it. It will have, actually this is the jobs deck. I'm sorry. So this is the jobs deck. If you take a look through here, it's going to have all different jobs that you can do. And these are kind of story-based missions. They're going to test your skills. The next thing here is your cargo deck. So you're going to have different cargo in here that needs to go to different places. And this is how you're going to get money, fame, and also reputation with the different factions in the game. Over here, you have just the luxury items deck. So this has all kinds of stuff in it. This will have some jobs. This will have some upgrades, like some armor or stuff to upgrade your ship or your character. So that is the luxury items deck. You're also going to have a ships deck. So the ships deck is going to have ships that you can purchase because you can start out with one of these 2 ships, and then they're very basic, and you want to upgrade the ships whenever you can, depending on what you're doing. Over here, you have upgrades. So this will contain upgrades for yourself and for your ship. So if you notice, you can equip gear to your characters, and you can mod your ship. Okay. And the last deck is going to be the bounties deck. So this is where you're going to basically look for people you want to hunt down if you are a bounty hunter, and that's how you gain your money and fame. Now, no character is locked into the specific role, so a bounty hunter character can be a smuggler and deliver cargo and goods. A smuggler can go and collect bounties. You're not locked into the role. However, most characters are going to gain benefits based on whatever their primary action type is. So Boba Fett here is going to level up and gain more advantages if he's doing bounties. And Han Solo is a smuggler, so he's going to gain more benefits if he's doing the smuggling type stuff, delivering cargo and goods. So that is your action step. And the last thing you can do is you can trade cards with players in your space. So this is a competitive game. However, it may be beneficial for characters to make trades or swaps in order to help themselves get further along, or maybe they just want something that the other character has, or the other player has. So you can trade cards amongst yourselves if you're in the same area. And the last part of the last action phase of the game is called the encounter step. Now, during the encounter step, you can do one of three things. On the encounter step, you can encounter the planet you are on. So if you are on Naboo, you can grab this card over here, and it has this deck is for these two planets. It'll have an action for each planet, and you just read which planet you're on, and you do the action, the story, whatever is there. The other thing you can do is you can encounter these contact tokens. So the contact tokens start face down. There are three different colors of them. They're white, green, and yellow. You can encounter them, and depending on what you're doing, there's a couple different ways you can encounter those tokens. The first way is if you have a bounty, like Boba Fett here has a bounty for Lobot. So if he were to turn over one of these white bounties, by chance it is Lobot. So if he were to encounter this character token, he could go after the bounty. And the way they go after the bounty is the card down here tells you how many fight Lobot is going to put up. So he'll have, he'll roll 2 of these dice, and Boba Fett gets to roll 3. So that is one way that you can encounter this token. The other way to encounter this token is if you notice there's a number here, and the number is a number in this big deck of cards. So this deck of cards pertains to the contacts in the game, cards out of this deck, and cards out of the different the different planet and nav point spaces. So in this case, you would hunt through, and so you found card number 18. You would flip it over, and you read a little story about Lobot. And then if you meet some requirements or pass some tests, you may be able to hire this person on as your crew, or they may have a job for you. It all depends on who the person is. So there's a way that you can encounter these tokens. And the last thing you can do is you can encounter these patrols. So the patrols, there are 4 different factions of the game. There are Rebel, Syndicate, Imperial, and Hutts. So each one of these factions have 4 different levels of ship. The ships get harder and harder to fight until the last ship is essentially unbeatable. Once you get to the 4th ship, there's no way to defeat it. You will just end up in a fight with the ship, and it will kill you, and you'll have to start, your turn on the next turn, recovering all your damage and moving on. Those ships, and along with the cards, play into the faction and whether or not you have a good, neutral, or negative reputation with them. So these little sliders have 3 positions. They have down, middle, and positive. So if you're in a positive faction, you're going to gain benefits with that faction whenever you do certain actions on certain cards. And if you encounter these tokens as they're moving around the board, if you have a positive reputation, you can just move through them. If you have a neutral, you have to stop on them, but you don't have to encounter them. You can just They will stop your movement, but you can just stop and hang out with them and not do anything. If you have a negative reputation with them and you encounter them, you have to fight them. Also, if you do fight one of them, if you're positive or negative and you decide you want to attack the ship, either for the money or you have a particular quest or something that tells you that you need to, hunt ships down, attacking them, if you have a positive reputation, will lower your reputation by 1. And then if you attack them again, it'll lower it all the way down. So that's how you encounter the tokens, or the faction tokens. And those are the basic things that you do on your turn. Now, there's a lot more going on under the hood than just that. Like I said, the basic mechanism is pick up and deliver, but this is a very heavily focused narrative-based game. So everything from your characters to your ships to these jobs to these cards here, these planet cards, are going to give you story-based missions that you need to do. And some of them are multi-part. So some of these will say to go to a particular place. And once you get there, you will resolve a specific card. So you'll hunt through this deck, you'll find the card, and you will go on a mini adventure on that card and have to do a bunch of skill checks. So how you do skill checks is essentially you roll the dice based on a couple different things. If you are doing a ground-based battle, you will use whatever your battle rating here is, your ground-based combat. If you are just doing a regular check, you'll roll 2 dice. And then the way you resolve those things are the dice have a few different symbols on them. The dice have a regular hit, a critical hit, and an eyeball. So the way these work is if you need to pass a particular check and it's asking you for a skill. Now, if you notice, Han Solo here has a couple skills at the bottom of his card. He has piloting and tech. And if you notice, this card here says, to do this job, you will possibly have to check knowledge, stealth, or strength. So that gives you an idea of what you're going to need to do. So if the check comes up and he has to test against stealth, which he doesn't have, the only way to pass it is to get a critical hit. If you do happen to have the skill, so if it's a tech test, then all he would need is a regular hit, which there are more regular hits on the die than critical hits. There's only 1 critical hit. There are a couple eyeballs and then a bunch of regular hits. The eyeball is essentially a miss. However, it may give you a secondary action based on this. And some cards do look for the eyeballs, and some characters allow you to turn these eyeballs into hits or critical hits, depending on what you're doing. So a lot of the cards in the game are going to have you do specific checks. So you're going to be rolling these dice a lot, and you are going to really want to pay attention to what skills they're asking you for and what skills you have and what skills your crew have. So throughout the game, you can upgrade your ship and your character with gear. So if I were to take this is a mod for a ship, and this lets me gain 1 speed. I buy the card and I just slot it into my mod slot. And that's going to give me the ability to go 1 additional speed. So my movement speed would be 7. If I were to get a gear like this wrist rocket, I would equip that to my character. And now my character has that bonus. Throughout the game, like I said, you can get crew. So if you were to get this person, you can slot the crew into one of your crew slots. And then this person is going to allow you to do specific things. Now, the named characters that you can get throughout the game, like Lothal here, Lobot, he actually has some skills that he will add to your checks. So adding crew is always a good idea. Now, your character will have a personal goal, and the personal goal allows you to upgrade your character. So right now, Han Solo has a gain +2 speed, so he's automatically faster because he's Han Solo and he did the Kessel Run. He has a personal goal, which says have a ship with a cost of at least 15,000 credits to gain 1 fame and flip this card. So if you were to go through and buy a ship, not this ship, but if you buy a ship that has 15,000, that's worth 15,000 credits, like the modified YT 1300 freighter, which is worth 20,000. If he were to buy this ship, his mod would come over with him and he would get to upgrade his character card. So he would gain 1 fame. So his little fame marker would go up 1 and he would get to flip his card over. So now he has an additional ability that says, when you move into patrol space, you may test piloting. If you pass, you do not have to end your movement in that space. So he's allowed to keep going if he passes the check. So not only do the characters have upgradable abilities, so do the ships. Each ship, not the base ships, but each of the ships you buy have a ship goal. And the ship goal, in this case, says if you have either 2 mods or 1 mod and the Chewbacca crew, deliver 1 cargo to gain 1 fame and flip this sheet. So it gives you a little goal that you need to do. And if you do, you will flip the card over. And now you're going to get a special ability on that ship, right? So all of the ships in the game are upgradable except for these base ships. And they're all going to have slightly different stats depending on what they do. So this ship is really good at running very fast, but it's not the greatest at fighting. When you flip it over, it does gain 1 additional fight. However, the ships are all a little bit different. Some will allow you to put more mods and less cargo. Some will allow you to carry more crew or less crew. These slots can change up based on the ship. So you really need to marry your ship to what you want to do in the game, whether you want to deliver cargo or go after bounties. Ship and the character both can take damage. That's what these little counters are for. So you just throw counters on there, and at any point during the game, in your planning step, you can, instead of moving or collecting money, you can just recover all damage, and now you're good to go. If you were to get defeated, which means you take more damage or equal damage to your health status, so the ship has 5, Han Solo has 4, you would actually get defeated, but all that really does is end your turn, and then your next turn, your first step has to be to recover damage. So you would essentially lay your character down, you would lose 3,000 credits, and if you have any secret cards, you would lose those secret cards, but then on your next turn, you just stand back up, remove all the damage, and you start over. So it's not a huge penalty to get defeated, and you will get defeated possibly once or twice or 3 times, depending on your missions and if you're doing a lot of fighting. The game does give you a lot of options in order to, kind of figure out what you want to do. And like I said, you're not locked into any one particular strategy in order to win or to play. You can do bounty hunting. You can focus on jobs. You can focus on delivering cargo. But in reality, a lot of a mix of things are probably going to do better. It really becomes down to, efficiently moving around the outer rim and not having a lot of wasted moves while getting a lot of money and fame at the same time. That is the basic gameplay overview. Let's head back up to the table to see what we thought about the game.
And we're back. All right. So now, after we taught you how to play it, we're going to talk about it. I think we should do should we do the pros or the cons first? We do the cons?
Sure.
Do the cons first? We do the cons first. All right.
Do the cons.
All right. So we're going to go with the cons first, and then I'm going to let Lloyd go first.
All right. I think right off the bat, my biggest con for Star Wars Outer Rim is they give you the option to play two different types of characters. I mean, you're playing different characters, but they give you two different types of jobs, essentially. You can be a bounty hunter or you can be a smuggler. And the only real difference is at the beginning, they give you a starting goal, right? And one of them is, if you're a smuggler, it's to deliver something. The other one is, if it's a bounty hunter, you got to go find a bounty and collect the bounty or kill the bounty. In this game, because of the way the board is set up, right? It's like it's a big arc you saw in the video. It's a big half moon. Mm-hmm. The one side of the board to the other side of the board is several turns, even with the fastest ship. And if you're at the beginning of the game, the fastest ship is 5, right?
Yep.
I think you have like a 4 or 5 mover, depending on which ship you take.
Yep. That's it.
But I think even with, maybe if you further on in the game, once you get some upgrades and maybe a better ship, maybe you can move 8 or 9, maybe. I might be pushing it if you have like all your ships modded out. But trying to find a bounty in this game is ridiculously hard and time consuming. So while you're, wasting turns flipping over these contact tokens to try and find whatever your bounty is, everyone else is experiencing the game, right? They're doing encounters, they're delivering stuff, they're making money, and you're still, unless you're very lucky, you're still, looking for your bounty. And there's no real easy way to find the bounty, right? Like, there's no way to shuffle those things up and reveal 2 at a time or anything. The market deck, you can cycle those cards. Like, so before I take a job or before I take a good to smuggle, I can retire, like, I guess, I don't know what they call it, but basically you can discard the top card and flip over a new one. Mm-hmm. So if you don't like what the first job is or the first thing, or it's too far away, you can just pass. You can just like, I don't want that. But if you got a bounty, you're pretty much stuck, right? Like you have to go find the bounty. And later on in the game, when a lot of those tokens are revealed, it might be slightly easier to find the bounty. But yeah, the beginning of the game is very slow going for a bounty hunter. So I think that's my biggest con is playing a bounty hunter is, and maybe it's supposed to be that way. Maybe it's supposed to be very difficult to be, dog the bounty hunter, going around the outer rim trying to find people hiding. But I don't know if it translates very, very well to a fun game mechanism to have that, searching. Feels like if you're a bounty hunter, you should be able to like follow leads or something that'll help guide you to where you need to go. And I wish they would have found some way to like implement some way to get leads or something. Like, if you're on one planet, you could, do something, hire an informant or something. And maybe instead of having to flip over the bounty that is on your planet, maybe you could just like flip a bounty on the other side of the board, so you don't have to fly all the way over there.
Yeah.
Just something like that. I don't know. Maybe they need expansion. Maybe they do that there.
Well, I guess we'll know when it comes out. So yes, I agree with you as far as movement around the board. Being a bounty hunter, you do get extra 2 fame, which is higher than what you get for like jobs and the story and stuff like that. So maybe that's how they balance it out. They thought that giving the 2 fame rather than just the 1 makes it kind of worth it. But I see what you mean. The movement on the board for me is a con a little bit because it increases the length of the game. Having to if you do get a bounty on one side of the board and then you have to travel all the way to the other side, and I wish they came up with like a wormhole or something that you can go from one side of the board to the other. But yeah, moving all the way, it kind of just makes you want to throw your hands up because you only get the 1 movement per turn. I wish there was another way to like, hey, can I skip like an encounter action to get more movement or something like that?
Yeah.
That would be nice. And then also when you get to, to a planet or somewhere, you only have that 1 encounter action. So say you wanted, you had like a story thing you needed to do, or if you wanted to encounter multiple, the people there to try to get something or try to find that bounty, it would be nice if you could do more than 1. So I think that increases the length of the game. And correct me if I'm wrong, you played this solo or have you played this with the full 4 people?
I played it with, have I played it with 4? I feel like I played it with 4. I played it with 3, I know, and I played it solo a couple of times. And actually, I played it at 2 players as well. Now that I think about it, I played all versions.
Okay. Did you think the number of people changed the game at all?
I think it's definitely the more people you have, like it's definitely longer, right? Because everyone's taking longer time.
Okay.
Solo is fairly quick. I mean, it's still like a 2-hour game, but it is faster because you're not waiting for someone else to make decisions. You're only making your own decisions, and then the AI does its own thing. Like you just follow along the card. It's like
Okay.
it's like an if then statement. It's like on the first part of your action, right? The planning phase. It's like do this or this or this in that order. So you do the first one that applies, then you go down to the next one. It's like do all that applies. So you just go down the line. And
Yeah.
when you get to the end, there's no thinking or anything involved. You just follow along. But yeah, the more people you add, if you play it with 4 players, yeah, you're looking at like a 4-hour game probably.
Yeah, see, I've only played it at 4 players, so I only know them. I was wondering if it scaled or anything, but yeah, the length is very much like a Twilight Imperium type thing, where everybody's not doing too much, but you're limited with what you can actually do. Because the teaching in the game is actually the longest part of the game, but the actual gameplay, like everybody's turns, doesn't take long. But if you're only moving to like one planet at a time and having that one encounter or whatever option you have, you decide to do, and actually that's what makes the game take so long. And especially if I'm very unlucky like I was, where I'd get even just the good or whatever, and I need to deliver it to the other side of the planet. It's just, and then I had the person on our game that we played was the bounty hunter, and their bounty was like the next planet over, so they were just getting 2 points. You get 4 bounties, and then the game's almost over at that point.
Yeah.
And then while they're doing that, they can deliver like 2 goods, and the game's over. So it's very much luck driven in that sense. But yeah, the length was an issue for me. And then also compared to that was the limited actions. I wish there was some way to get an extra action so you can look at 2 people or do an encounter if you need to at the planet at the same time. But yeah, other than that, it runs pretty smooth. Did you want to go? Did you have any other cons? Or are you good? Want to move on to pros?
I mean, I think that was my biggest con. That's the part that sticks out to me the most. I mean, you covered game length. It is a long game. Like it's not something, and you can vary like the fame to kind of make it go a little faster.
Mm-hmm.
But you want to decide that early on. Like we're only going to play to like 8 because you don't want to be like at halfway through the game and like, you know what? Let's just play to 8. Like, yeah, because you're at 6 and I'm at 2. Yeah, like we're gonna play till 12, so I have a chance to catch up. So,
yeah, that happened to us. We tried to do the full 12 to make it a long game, and in like the 4-hour mark, everybody was in agreement, even if we weren't winning, to go ahead and okay, we'll do 10 because it was like we're not even close inching along. But yeah, so pros. Let's talk about pros. I guess I'll go first.
Yeah.
My biggest pro of this game is that it's very much story driven. There's a huge Star Wars theme. If you want Star Wars all in a little box, you don't want to buy a bunch of figures and starships and all this other stuff, buy Star Wars Outer Rim. All Star Wars experience in a little box. You get a good art and everything. Everything's very thematic. You have a bunch of the characters from the Star Wars Destiny card game, which I enjoyed. I played it a little bit, so it was good to see that artwork recycled again. And then they actually added some characters that I didn't see in the game and I had never seen in Star Wars and some of the planets and everything. So it was nice to go there. And then actually having the encounter cards at the planets was a very good thing because you get a little story in the encounter cards and then you read it out loud. That's like a house rule. Whenever I play, you have to read the whole card out and then read what your options are when you go to the encounter. So I definitely like that very much. Also, I like the interaction in the board game, NPC interactions and also player versus player. The fact that you have the little starships with the factions and who you're affiliated with and who you're good with, kind of creeping along, kind of gives you that urgency if you're not good with those people, like the Hutts or the crime syndicate or whatever. And then they're chasing you, and then also the player interactions. Say somebody has a bounty that you need and that's their crew member. You have to go and attack them. So I like that part because there is some forced interaction in that. Otherwise, everybody's just playing their own game, which is kind of lame in my book. I like some like player interactions. So those are my pros. Very much story driven and interactions in the game.
So you talk about player interaction. There's it's like a throwaway line in there that you can trade with other players. Has that happened in any of your games? Like, I don't know. I couldn't figure out a good reason I'd want to trade with someone else other than if they really had something that I needed or something. But I mean, it just never really came up. But there is like the ability to trade. It says you can trade anything. You can trade crew. You can trade whatever you want. Like, you can trade. I just don't know. I guess if you're having like a really friendly game, maybe. But
yeah, there was probably one time is somebody had a bounty and the person had a nice ship, and I think the person that had the bounty had a starter ship, and they could have just been blown away. So they're like, "Hey, I'll give you this guy if you just kind of give me 20,000 credits or something like that." That was pretty much it. It's more like a not a trade, but a bid. What is that called? You buy somebody off.
Yeah, you can choose to. So that's a cool thing with the interaction, right? Like if one of my crew members is your bounty, I can choose to fight for them, or I can choose to let them fight on their own. And that changes how many dice you roll in combat and what you're allowed to use. Because if I choose to fight, then you don't roll against the bounty. You roll against me with whatever weapons I have. So if I don't want to fight you, I can just be like, hey, no, I don't want to defend this guy. And you fight with whatever's on his, whatever's on his thing. Granted, if you're in space, it might be ship versus ship. But I think even then, I'd have to look at the rules. But I know that is the option. Like, you can choose to not fight for someone and they don't get to use any of your like stats.
Okay.
But I mean, that is another way. Like, you could just buy the person off. Like, I think the player interaction is fun. I do like how thematic it is. When you get to those encounters and you get those story cards, some of them are like, multi steps. And you're doing like, you're testing your piloting, then you're testing your tech, then you're testing like, oh, you failed your tech. So now you got to fight this guy because you couldn't hack. So now you got to, fight your way in. Those are really fun. So yeah, I think the theme is definitely dripping off this game. And we talked about it briefly. One of the things I do like is the fact that this does have a solo mode. A lot of the games I play, if you look on the shelves behind me, most of these games I can play by myself, because my kids moved out, so they're not around to play games with. My wife's not really into a lot of like long games as much as she used to be. So this is something else I'm really only get to play with my group, or if I really want to play it, I can pull out the AI and play it by myself. The one drawback to the AI is that it can only play a smuggler. So you can only play against one AI opponent. And it does some wonky stuff where as you're playing, like, you have to do very specific things to get fame. The AI will just, like, if they can't do any of their encounter stuff, it'll just be like, hey, if they have, $10,000, buy a fame. So that's how they stay competitive, because they don't really they deliver things here and there. But they rarely take jobs. I don't think they ever take jobs. They only take goods, and they will buy upgrades for their stuff, and they will take crew if they can. But I don't think they'll ever encounter. I don't think they actually do. Like, they won't buy a job, and I don't think they encounter stuff. They do it a little differently. Like, their biggest way to get fame is they just buy it. So they'll deliver jobs to get money, and then they'll use that money to buy fame if they have it. So, but it's like one of the last things they do. So if they spend all their money buying a ship, then they're not going to have money to buy the fame. So it gets a little bit wonky, but it does stay competitive. Like, I've never blown the AI out of the water where I've got like 10 and they're at 2. Like, they're usually, that buying fame usually keeps them in lockstep with you. So I like the solo mode on it. So yeah, between that and the theme,
I will take your word for it on the
well, a lot of games don't actually have like a true solo mode. Like, you just have to, if you want to play solo, you have to play like 2-player, and you're playing yourself and you're playing, another character. A lot of games don't have a true solo. This does have a true solo mode in it, which is appreciated by us lonely gamers.
Good old Optima. it's the best player, best friend you could ever have. It's Ultima.
Yeah. But so yeah, the theme, the AI, it does really feel like you are, doing stuff in the Star Wars universe. It definitely doesn't feel like they just, tacked on Star Wars to some random game that they already had.
Yes. Yep.
I mean, maybe they did, and they just tailored all of the stuff to really go to it once they had it. Because at the base of the game, it's a pick up and deliver for the most part. Like you're picking up something here and taking it all the way over here, and then there's just tons of Star Wars.
So Fantasy Flight has the Arkham license as well. So it seems very Arkhamish to me with the encounters and stuff, and they just kind of slapped it onto Star Wars, but it was still very thematic. I like the research they did with all the weapons and everything. Yeah. So it's Arkham-ish, but very much in the Star Wars universe. So yeah,
it's heavily story driven, right?
Yeah,
like, I'm honestly surprised they didn't make like a living card game out of this.
They were trying to. Yeah, I see what you mean, because they had the Star Wars Destiny TCG. So it wouldn't be hard to do just an LCG of it, because they have champions, Marvel champions, so they can do that with Star Wars.
Yeah,
it must be the same thing. It'd be nice if they could do it without being a co-op and make it competitive, but they're very much in the LCG, the co-op LCGs. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they did exactly that, make it into an LCG. That's probably coming soon. You probably just foreshadowed that there. Spoilers. If they don't, but we all know that Fantasy Flight likes to throw money away. So, I mean, it's still 50-50. But it's incredible. Anyways, that's a whole nother video. Let's just, talk about that. But hey, we talked about Star Wars Outer Rim, the base game. I hope you all enjoyed that. This is Jim Jam. That's Lloyd. And we're Just Got Played. Catch us next time. Bye.
Don't forget to check the description for our link to Discord. Come and argue with us over there.
Discord. Let us know how you feel.
All right, see ya.